This is Perry with Premier Marishine in New York, and I wanted to do something a little bit different today because I'm still working on wheels, go figure. But I wanted to try to piece together a couple of different videos to not only show the process without creating something that's an hour and a half long for you to watch, but also try to explain things without trying to do a voiceover with time lapse. So bear with me. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so it may not be pretty. But basically what I have is a Pete oval wheel, 24.5, and obviously I'm doing the steer side. I have the drive side of it, the inside of it is all scrubbed and acid washed, but I have already sanded this wheel. The process was 180, 180 rotary, 320, 600, 800 rotary, and then I switched to the DA, whacked it with 800 on the DA real quick. And so this, what you're seeing now, has been cut. This is my heavy cut, and I am using the Hilsinger gray heavy cut buff from Spectrum. The guys at Spectrum Alberta put a lot of time and effort into helping make these, or create them, so that they work really, really well with Menzerna compounds. So these are the buffs that I've been going with, I would say, for 2 years now, and I really like them. They hold together really well. This I just raked out when I got done with my second round of cutting on this wheel, but I'm pairing that with Menzerna 439T, which is probably the more common heavy cut compound for aluminum. So there's my bar, there's my buff on a DeWalt 849X is the machine that I run. I do not run 6,000 RPM machines for a number of reasons. The main reason being that I have a hard time holding on to them. They're too big for me. They jerk my shoulders around, and my already repaired shoulder cannot handle it. So you can see the RPM speed setting for this is 3,000. This machine will go up to 3,500. A lot of people cut at 3,500. I've been playing around with different things, different speeds, and for this wheel I cut at 3,000, and it actually did a really nice job, and it didn't leave an excess of lines, more like a zebra stripe than a hash. What you can see, let's see if I can get it in the video, these lines right here, these tick marks that won't wipe off, like this is a compound line. For those who don't know, this will wipe off. That is a compound line. That is what you chase with your buffer when you're working. So I'm going like this, there's my hole, and I'm working my buffer like this away from the hole up to the next one. So that's the line that I'm following. These lines that you're seeing are from the compound, and my belief, and I could be 100% wrong, and I'm sure somebody's gonna correct me, but my belief is that I am getting these right now because the metal's too cold. And you can see I'm wearing a hoodie. It's like, I think it's like 13 degrees outside right now. I have the heat set at 68 in my shop at the moment. But you can see they're not horrible. All right. But in the time-lapse video, what you're gonna notice is in one section of it where I clip two pieces together, you're gonna see me reach for this bottle right here, and that bottle is mineral spirits. So what I did was I did my first cut all the way around, and then was getting a lot of these tick marks, and we ended up having the shop door open for an extended period of time, and it cooled the shop off and almost instantly cooled off all of the aluminum that I've been working on. So to try to combat these little lines that are all over everything and give the compound a little bit of lubrication, I hit it with a couple of squirts of mineral spirits real quick, just to do exactly that. It's purely for lubrication purposes. You'll notice I didn't wipe it in, the wheel didn't turn black or anything like that. But I wanted to explain that because I think a lot of people don't know what this might come from, these lines, and they get wigged out over it, and then they don't know what to do or how to proceed. So these lines that you see going this way in the finish, hopefully the phone captures that, those lines are hash marks, and those are basically micro marring for the paint correction people. That is micro marring caused by the cotton in the buff. So that is what we are trying to remove. You're not seeing any zebra stripes or anything like that. All you're seeing is purely hash marks. So as we progress with finer pads, softer pads, and finer compounds, those lines will start to fade away a little bit, get a lot finer. This is not going to be a show finished wheel. So that being said, I am not going for some ungodly hashless finish. It's not going to happen. The customer's not paying for that amount of time to be spent on this. So we're not going for that, but I wanted to show you, take a second to try to explain everything. So what I'm going to do now is show the time lapse of the actual cutting so that you can see that. I wanted to get the explanation out of the way first, so you can see the actual cutting, and then I'm going to put everything together for my color step that I've already tried on another wheel, so I know it's going to work. And then I will be back with like a lifetime video explaining the coloring process real quick. So I've already explained the sanding, I've explained the cut. Here's the cut in time lapse, and then I'll be right back. So now that you've seen the cutting stage in the time lapse, now I'm going to show you the next couple of steps. So first thing we got to do is switch out to the wheel that I'm going to use for coloring. I'm going to play with the speed on the machine a little bit, and this wheel is actually going to be used to finish also in lieu of a Dammit flannel. So what this buff is, this is another Hillsinger buff from Spectrum. So this is a 24 ply, nice and thick. This is what they call their mirror finish buff. It's very, very soft. It's almost like a flannel, but not quite. you can see this one is very, very fluffy, very soft. That one is a flannel. I believe this is Renegade, one of Renegade's flannels. This is not quite that soft. This is one that has already been used. This is what I'm actually going to put on the machine, but I wanted to grab a new one so that you could actually see. That's what it's called. Spectrum. Once you use it, you can't really tell because of the dust. So this is what it looks like after it's already been used. I'm going to hit this on the rake. I'm probably going to run this one at roughly, I would say 2600 RPM. And I'm going to pair it with P175. Let me see if I can get this out. So this is my P175 bar. What's left of it. And I'm going to use this with this buff. This buff. That's what I'm going to use to color this. And I'm going to run, like I said, probably 2600 RPM. So what I'm going to do now is take my applicator pad. I'm going to take a shot, just a shot of mineral spirits, and I'm going to put just a touch of white diamond on it. This is something that a lot of people say that you don't have to do. A lot of people don't do it. It's something that I choose to do. I feel like it makes my process a little bit easier, and it's also been proven to make my polish jobs last a lot longer than just a couple of weeks without having to be retouched. So you're going to get a glimpse into the process that I use. Typically, I only usually have people come back once, maybe twice a year to get repolished once they've gone through the initial polish process. I do have trucks that I haven't touched for 2.5, 3 years that are riding around, and they still look good. They don't look like the day they got done, but they do still look good. So I know that my process works, and it helps seal up the pores of the aluminum for the guys that don't want to spend the money on Cerakoting or using Alumaclear or anything like that. This process does help hold shine. So this is what I continue to do. If anybody has any suggestions, I'm open to trying whatever. If you want to drop your suggestions down in the comments, it's all fair game. There is way more than one way to skin a cat in this industry, and I am not going to tell anybody that they're straight up wrong unless the reasons why are blatantly obvious. But I learned by watching YouTube, and now I'm hoping that I can help people cut some corners that I had to learn the hard way with my videos, maybe. So we'll get into it. So first things first, a little bit of liquid polish on my wheel right there. Turn the camera so you guys can see. And I'm gonna go back to time lapse. I'm gonna switch out my buffs, and then we'll come back to talk about the finish. All right, now I've got my color done, and I actually changed it up I don't mean to mislead anybody or whatever, but when I first started going after this, I tried the P175. I wasn't happy with it. Didn't really like it. So I turned the speed up on my grinder just a touch. I think I went to 2800 RPM on the grinder, which is just a step down from my cut, and I switched over to P164, which is a coloring bar from Menzerna. It's similar to P14F, but where P14F is more of a cut, leans more towards the cut side of things, P164 leans more towards the color side of things. So this is normally what I go with, unless I'm doing like a really quick two-step touch-up type of deal. Then I'll use the P14F. But the P164 is what I just used here. And then I will show you the hash, if you can see it. Hopefully you can see it, is a lot finer now. Because the wheel is not near as aggressive. So you can see my compound line right here, maybe. It's very, very faint, but that's from me working this way against this hole for my final pass. So this is what I'm dealing with. This is my color, and you can still see, maybe see if I can get it in the video. It's very, very, very faint right there. You can see it. Very faint tick marks now from what I was dealing with before. So this P164 bar is a lot drier than, say, the 439T. There's a lot of grease to this. It helps with the working time. With the P164, this is drier. It doesn't have as much grease to it, which is why if the video is slowed down enough on the time lapse, you'll see that I'm hitting this bar a lot more to try to keep the tick marks from coming through as bad. So that's what I'm doing. This was my color step. So I have recap this with the gray Hilsinger heavy cut buff for my cut. Then I wipe down with my Terry applicator and a touch of mineral spirits and a touch of white diamond. And then I came back at 2800 RPM with my P164 on my Hilsinger mirror finish buff. And at 2800 RPMs, it acts more as a coloring buff than a finishing buff because the spin is making it a lot stiffer. So what you'll see now is I'm going to switch over to the P175 finishing bar. I'm going to drop my speed down to 1200 RPM, usually is where I run. Anywhere between 1000 and 14, depending on the type of aluminum that I'm working on. Temperature, humidity, that all comes into play. For what I'm in right now in the shop, I'm probably going to run it right around 1200. I'm going to I'm not going to add any more mineral spirits to my pad, or I'm not going to add any more white diamond to my pad for right now. I'm going to spray the wheel real quick, just a spritz or two of the mineral spirits, work the pad in. That'll break up any of the tick marks from the P164, and then I'm going to hit it with my finishing wheel. So I'm going to switch everything back over to time lapse so that we can move through that, and then I will show you the next step. All right, so I got the finish done, as you can see. Looks nice and clean. You can see up, ignore the little smudge, but you can see up at the top how fine the hash is now. It's still there, but it's not huge glaring lines anymore like it was from our super heavy cut. If you wanted to chase those out, you'd have to do more steps. It's kind of like wet sanding essentially. You chase your grits. So you have to do the same thing with different combinations of bars and wheels and everything else to get the hash to the point where it's pretty much non-existent. So you can see that I have a couple of little ticks here and there. They are not huge, glaring. There's a little bit more of a pile up right there. I don't know if you'd see that or not. They're not huge, glaring in your face. So instead of taking a towel and just trying to wipe compound that is hard, because this has had heat put to it and it's on a cold surface, so now this compound from that bar is hard and it's stuck to the surface. So now what I'm going to do is my final step. Excuse me, it's been a long day. So my final step is going to be a little bit more of my white diamond on my pad, and I'm going to wipe the whole wheel down with a very, very fine coat. And then what I'm going to do is switch over to my Dremel, which is right there, and I'm going to use one of these little doodads, and I'm probably going to go with either a red or a yellow ball. I'll go in here and grab a yellow one. So this is basically a Scotch-Brite pad on a ball, and it goes in the Dremel that you can see right there. This goes in that, and I put my final layer of liquid polish on, and then I take this and I clean out the holes. So you can see how nasty, dirty, grimy those holes look. So I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna come back. I'll put this on time lapse so that you can see, and then we'll come back, we'll wipe the wheel down, get all the final layer of sealant off of it, and then I'll show you the final product. All right, so we got the holes all dremeled out with a yellow Scotch ball in the Dremel. And now we're going to take off the final layer of polish, sealant stuff, because it's had time to dry up a little bit while I did that. I think all total, it took me about 3 minutes to do that, and I only used one ball. And those balls I buy off of Amazon, typically. I could put the link below in the description so that you could see, but I'm pretty sure I buy like 100 count of them for 21 bucks. So that makes them 20-ish cents a piece, I think. Suck at math, so sorry if that's wrong. But for pennies, I can improve the appearance of the wheel tenfold by just satin finishing the holes. Now, if this was going to be a show wheel, I would actually polish the holes out. But this is what I do for every single customer that comes in the shop now. I've been doing it for probably about 2 years, I think. I just throw a little ball in the Dremel and zip them out real quick, and it really completes the look of the wheel. So we're gonna buff this off. So what I use first is a cotton terry towel. Now, the terry towel is what I go with because the liquid polish will not cake up in these towels and create extra marring. If you use a microfiber, the polish will actually get caked up, built up in the microfiber, and then it will create scratches. So what I've always told people who have asked me what my process is, I always say remove roughly 70% or more of your liquid polish with a cotton terry towel first, and then switch over to the microfiber to do your final buff. So we're gonna hit this real quick. Get any kind of remaining residue that might be hanging out. Get that off of there. Now, some may say that this is a really fancy microfiber to be using on metal, and some of you would probably be right. The thing is when I do my detail work, I cycle out my towels. So this towel actually used to be a coating towel, and then it was, after a couple of uses, it got cycled out to an interior towel. And then after I use them on interior, they go to metal polishing, where I do exactly this with them. And then after I get done with my metal polishing, where they're nasty, they're all black, caked up with polish, whatever the case may be, then they get tossed. So I get my money's worth out of my towels. I'm not trying to be cheap about it, but there's no sense in spending money when you don't need to do stuff like this. Now, show wheels, show tanks, stuff like that, I will use brand new towels on them because I don't want to risk any kind of contamination. But you'll see the amount of hash that's in the wheel now is absolutely no different than the amount of hash that was in the wheel after the final step. So this is what I look like now. I'm gonna bring it over here. This is what it looks like now. Now that all the polish and everything is off. And as you can see, having the holes cleaned out just, in my opinion, makes the wheel look 10 times better. You don't have all that caked up brake dust, tar, you know, whatever might be inside the wheel causing, or inside the holes causing them to just look grimy, grungy, is no longer there. So it's something that I do. It's nothing that, it's something that a lot of polishers don't do. And there's nothing wrong with that. It does take time, and time is money. But that's the finished product. So here's something else for you guys that I'm not sure if you can see it or not. You see that little piece of hair looking thing right there that goes across? That's not on your phone screen, I promise. I'm trying to get it so that you can see it. It's right there. It comes off of this lug nut hole right here, and it goes all the way out to here. So that right there is a crack right in the face, and there is actually another one just about the same position too. It's right here, and it comes up across like that right there and stops right about the same spot. And just so that you know that I'm talking about two different ones, the other one is right here. So they're opposite, pretty much opposite sides of the wheel, but there are cracks right in the face. This is something that I noticed going into my color stage, but I kept on forgetting to do a video about it, so I'll do it now. So going into the color stage and stuff, by the time I had already seen it, I was already pretty much well into coloring the wheel. So at that point, I'm just gonna finish it. I know the customer's gonna pay for it anyway. They're gonna pay me for the polish job on it anyway, but when I drop this wheel off, what I'm actually gonna do is mark these two cracks. I'm just gonna mark right by the lug nut, so that if they do decide to put it on something temporarily, which I'm sure this customer probably won't, but sometimes they do. If I put a mark, a little arrow right here by the lug nut hole, it will actually get covered by the ring once the lug nut is on, so you don't have to worry about wiping Sharpie off out here. So I'm gonna mark both of these lug nut holes here and here, so that the customer can see that it's cracked in two different places. And I'm sure he'll probably just take the tire off and put it on a different wheel, or have me polish a different wheel, but at least this one is done now, in case he does want to put it on a truck that isn't going to see very many miles, or the truck that he uses to just move empty tanks around in the yard and stuff. This wheel would hold up probably pretty fine for that. But this is something that I actually see fairly often, is the cracks in wheels, mainly because our roads just suck. So the wheels, tires, everything up here, suspension parts, they all just take a royal beating. So cracked faces in general in the industry, cracked faces are not super common, especially on wheels that are fairly new. Like, I don't think that this wheel is all that old, to be honest with you. I could check the date stamp here in a minute, but for stuff that's on the road constantly, cracked faces around here, I actually see a lot of. I think I've caught 15 cracked wheels for customers in 2024, which there are some polishers that have been in the business longer than I've been alive who have maybe seen 15 cracked wheels the whole time they've been polishing. So I'm not going to say that it's completely rare. It's super rare and I'm just special, but it's not something that you're going to see a lot of. But it is something that you'll want to pay attention to for your customers, and just give them a heads up. Because I could tell you that I have had more customers grateful that I have given them the heads up on cracked wheels than I could shake a stick at. Like, they are not going to be mad at you that you mention a cracked wheel. Usually it's something you can pick up on in the sanding stages and pick it up really quick and pretty easily. These two cracks, for whatever reason, I did not see them until I was getting into coloring. It's not a huge deal, but just so that you're aware, it is something that you want to watch out for.